Welcome to the fourth and final part of this streetcar saga, where we talk about, again, the modern streetcar systems, what's wrong with them, and how to fix them up. Alright, so now the notebook page. Now, I'm actually not going to show too much of this. You can take a look at it, but it's kind of confusing. But I'm even more psycho and made a list on Excel that makes this much easier to read and understand. So there's a column in here called track style, and this is basically what the system in general is. Did they construct streetcar lines? Did they do circulators? Or did they just do one big loop? Some of these have multiple components, and so those are going to be in here too. You'll notice that a lot of the first generation systems have center running tracks, and that seemingly seems to work very well. Now, I don't exactly know the answers to this, but a lot of them also have tunnels. And I think this is probably when the lines were being updated and converted to light rail, because many of them that are say that they have a tunnel. However, Toronto and Philadelphia, although Toronto's not on here because it's not in the US, but Philadelphia still runs the small old school style streetcars, well, they're from the 80s, in a downtown tunnel. And that tunnel is old. And you'll notice very rare on the curb running lines. It's not as common back then. But now if we flip over to the second gen systems, you'll notice it's quite different. It's fairly 50-50 with center running and curb running, but I do think there are more lines that run along the curb nowadays. And again, that introduces issues that the center running tracks fixed, which I talked about in part 3. But you'll also notice that dedicated right-of-way, almost none of them have dedicated right-of-way. They are very much mixed traffic, and they're like a bus on rails. Unfortunate. You'll notice right up at the top, Portland is the only one to have all three. We have center running tracks, we have curb running tracks, and we have dedicated rights-of-way. We do not have any tunnels on our system, but there's a big-time dedicated right-of-way on Tillicum Crossing. And there's even a bridge that goes over the rail yard that has ballasted tracks, which is very interesting for a streetcar system. Very cool, and I wish other places did this too. Much of it is still a fairly poorly designed circulator, but the portion on Harrison Street is actually really well designed. It's in downtown, and this is kind of how I imagine all streetcar systems building modern streetcar lines. Just follow that example. Other systems worth discussing. Atlanta, Cincinnati, and Oklahoma City are all entirely circulators. Not good. They took the bad points of Portland's system and made it the whole system. Rather unfortunate. To be fair to Atlanta, they do have the larger Siemens S700 vehicles, so at least they have the options for higher capacity. Those are much better trains. Last thing before we start getting into the whole talking about all the systems and how to improve them, I want to look at some old pictures in these books from Richard Thompson to show you how Portland's network was designed back in the day. This picture here on page 49 perfectly shows how 3rd Avenue would have been set up. The tracks are right there in the middle, and people are walking absolutely everywhere, but this is how I imagine the system looking if we were to design it well nowadays. Here's another downtown shot on page 32. You can see again, tracks right there in the center. Ha! I found a picture in a dedicated right-of-way from a long while ago. This was in the 1930s, but the streetcar was running off of a street. Again, they did this forever ago, and modern systems struggle to do this whole dedicated right-of-way thing. Here's page 69, and take a look at this. Again, 3rd Avenue, they had the Great Light Way thing here, and streetcars going through it. Side note, can we bring that back? I think this was one of the coolest parts of Portland's thing, is when the street was all lit up like that. So now, let's cover my issues that I have and solutions to those issues with the 15 modern streetcar networks in the United States. Portland. Pros. Serves a developing area, 2 hospitals, OMSI, crosses 2 different bridges, has dedicated right-of-ways at the South Waterfront area and OMSI. Cons. The vehicles are too small, it has circulators and loops, lots of it. Very little signal priority, it always seems like you're stopped. And much of it is really just a bus on rails. Solutions? Extend the system using the 12 elements that I talked about back in part 3. There's lots of potential to expand, and I say get larger vehicles while you're at it. I'm going to make a separate video talking about streetcar future here in a little bit, so stay tuned for that. Seattle. Pros. Well-designed trackway. It serves Chinatown and the Amtrak station. Cons. Both lines are disconnected. Much of the routes really don't serve much of anything. To me, it seems like lots of these could have just been bus routes. So solutions, connect the lines in some way. There was a planned connection project to have the tracks go down 1st Avenue. Do that. And extend the lines to serve actual destinations. Seattle is a highly tourist attraction area. Seattle has a lot to see, and the streetcars don't serve any of it. Salt Lake City. Pros. Mostly the entire route is a dedicated right-of-way, and it also has the longer vehicles, which is nice. The cons, almost all of the system is a single track, and it's really short. Solutions, if you can double track it, do it. Also, I would add new lines and extensions, and in some way have it better connect to downtown Salt Lake City, because this is really far on the south side. You could possibly use Main Street or State Street. Basically give people a reason to be down in this area on your streetcar. Tucson. Pros. You've got a decent track design, except in the heart of downtown. It serves shops, university, there's a downtown transit center, and it has a short dedicated right-of-way, which includes a short tunnel. It serves near the Amtrak station as well. Cons, too many turns. The schedule is unclear as well. I was unable to find a clear and concise schedule. Well, solutions. 4th Avenue and Park Avenue should be separate lines, as well as University Boulevard and 2nd Street all the way to the end at Helen should be separate as well. Those could all be individual lines. Atlanta. Pros. Has the longer vehicles, and it serves the MLK Memorial. Cons. It is literally just a circulator. It also only runs in downtown. The one-way track, there are one-way tracks on 2-way streets, which makes no sense. It seems very visitor and tourist oriented, and it doesn't serve the subway at all, even though it goes right over it. Well, solutions? Edgewood or Auburn are set up for 2-way streets, so use it that way. Eliminate this circulator nonsense. Make it into a line, or possibly 2 lines. Oh, also Carnegie is a 2-way with 1 track, and so is Lucky Street. Why are these circulators? These should be lines. The system should expand to a neighborhood, possibly a newly developed or an underserved area by transit. A new line should also serve the 5-point station in some way to provide a direct connection to the subway. Dallas. Pros: serves newly developed neighborhoods. It serves the main Amtrak station and has a decent trackway design. Cons: it doesn't really serve downtown Dallas very well, only the edge. Solutions: expand the network further into downtown via Main Street and to other neighborhoods, and maybe connect it to the historic streetcar line somehow. Charlotte. Pros: good trackway design, serves a major transit center, it's very easy to expand the network, it's got longer vehicles, and serves a community college. Cons? Not many. This is really the only one I don't have many cons for. Just maybe get better schedules and use additional elements of my 12 elements. Solutions: consider some dedicated right-of-ways and adding new lines down crossroads. We've got lots of potential here. Some of these crossroads include Rozelle's Ferry Road, Graham Street, Caldwell Street, Kings Drive, and Charlottetown Avenue. Washington, D.C. Pros: has a decent trackway design and is a very simple route. It's just a straight line. Cons: it's too short and it doesn't connect to anything. Solutions: to me this seems like really low-hanging fruit. Extend the existing line east over to Minnesota Avenue and then down to the metro station of that same name. This also connects to a bus area. You know, give people a reason to use your streetcar. Kansas City. Pros: has a decent schedule. It serves the Amtrak station and is a pretty simple route. Cons: crazy track by Kansas City Station. It skates across all lanes of Main Street. What? And it's also got the pointless one-ways where it's actually a two-way street but that they made into a circulator. And it also doesn't directly serve the T-Mobile Center. Solutions: the tracks should be in the middle of Main Street to avoid the stupidity at the Amtrak station. 5th Street and 3rd Street are both two-way but have circulator one-way tracks on them. Pick a street and put the tracks in both directions. A new line could be built on 12th, 13th, or 14th to serve the T-Mobile Center. Cincinnati. Pros: it serves a baseball stadium and uses nice European rolling stock. Cons: serves absolutely nothing else. This is a very poorly designed circulator, and it may as well have just been a bus line. It's just a bus on rails. Solutions: new lines, if possible, down some other roads to actually serve things. Serve hospitals, universities, basically the 12 elements I already talked about. Some of these crossroads you could do are Central Parkway or Liberty Street. Detroit. Pros: simple route. It serves the university and serves an arena. The cons: mostly the line is curb tracks and it doesn't really connect to much. It doesn't really serve transit centers or other things very well. Solutions: the portion from Amsterdam Street north should be what the whole line is designed like. Lots of new line possibilities crossing the existing route. These crossroads include Grand Boulevard, Warren Avenue, and Mack Avenue, just to name a few examples. So decent potential for expansion. Milwaukee. Pros: serves the Amtrak station, has lots of turnback areas, and an okay-ish trackway design. Cons: again does the whole circulator on two-way streets. It doesn't really serve much and ends in the middle of nowhere. Solutions: Again, a two-way street should have two-way tracks. I don't understand this circulator thing. Just in general, I've made my 12 elements thing in part 3. I would watch that. Oklahoma City. Pros. The downtown loop seems okay, has decent coverage at almost 5 miles, and serves the Amtrak station. Cons. Yeah, the route doesn't make any sense at all. It takes so many left turns, right turns, left turn, right turn, left, right, left, right, right, left, right. What? How did I end up in this part of town? What? Solutions. Once again, use two-way streets as two-way tracks. Make new lines down new streets. And you can use my 12 elements again to design a decent system. But it pretty much needs to be redesigned and rethought. However, out of all the streetcar networks I'm going to be talking about, Oklahoma City's I see the biggest potential for. Here are some more details for this. I would establish a grid of lines, and I would have these lines on these streets. There would be a Sheridan Avenue line, a Reno Avenue line, a Robinson Avenue line, possibly a Hudson Avenue line, a 4th Street line, and a 10th Street line. I am not kidding, those are all streets that have existing streetcar tracks on them. And it's one line right now. It makes no sense. If those were all separate, and if that was a nice grid of streetcar lines, you could totally transform this whole system. Tempe. Pros. Has a good track layout, connects directly to Valley Metro Light Rail. It serves a university and is a pretty simple route. Cons. It has a useless circulator part that doesn't need to exist. Solutions. Abolish circulators. It uses Mill Avenue, a two-way street that directly connects to Valley Metro. Why does the southbound track use Ash Avenue up at Hayden Butte? University Avenue and Ash Avenue could be separate lines. Orange County, California. Pros. Uses longer trains, serves a transit center in Garden Grove and an Amtrak station in Santa Ana. Has a decent trackway design and a large dedicated right-of-way when leaving Santa Ana. Cons. Doesn't need to circulate downtown, but it does. Doesn't serve too much outside of Santa Ana. Solutions. Just avoid one-ways in the future. This is actually a pretty good line already and is very easy to extend further into other areas. Well, there you go. This is from my brain, getting everything out there. As you see, all 15 streetcar systems that are modern can do with some help. Some of them need a lot of help, but I don't think a single one of these are a lost cause. I say just keep chugging and keep some of these things in mind, and if you choose to expand your streetcar network, keep those 12 elements in mind as you are designing the trackway, and there you go. I think you'll have a decent system on your hands. It's time to change our reputation. The rest of the world views the United States as we build terrible rail systems here, and that includes our streetcars. Big time. Let's change our reputation on that. Let's actually get somewhere here. But that'll be it for this video, and I'll see you next time for the next video.